Welcome to Close Up Radio, where our hosts, Doug Liewelyn and Jim Masters, bring you the amazing stories of people who answered the call to unlock their potential and taken control of their own success with authenticity, creativity, persistence, and resilience. Close Up Radio special guests share their knowledge and wisdom so you, the listener, can live the most empowered life possible. Close Up Radio. And now, here's today's host, Doug Liewelyn.
Well, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I am Doug Liewelyn. Nice to have you with us again. We're going to be talking to a remarkable young lady who loves to help people today. She is an experienced, licensed professional counselor, but she's different, and I think you're going to find her really, really interesting. She is the founder of Choosing Empowerment, and her name is Shawnelle Batiste. She's located, by the way, down in Leander, Texas, where they had something really unique yesterday. They had snow, and it never snows in Texas, at least where she is, and it's kind of strange. She's still reeling from the snow in the sky, and there's still snow on the ground. Anyway, she has a passion for serving those who need help, and she provides counseling to those who are chronically underserved. As she puts it, she believes in the power of choice, and her goal is for people to be empowered in their ability to choose and make empowering choices. She's, as I said, not your average therapist. For almost 20 years, she has served at-risk youth, developmentally delayed or disabled children, and adults as well as the mentally ill. It's interesting because she says she was born to be a therapist. It's all she's wanted to do since she was 7 years old, which is really fascinating. She didn't even know what a child psychiatrist was, but she knew she wanted to help children. She wanted to talk to people and wanted to help people. And that's what most people want, somebody to help them. They're the experts on themselves. They just want somebody to be able to hear them, understand them, not judge them, and to be compassionate. And that's what she does. Her firm, her practice, Choosing Empowerment, is, as she put it, people from all walks of life. She helps everyone. What do you want to do? What do you do? Do you want to continue to suffer? Do you want to get better? What are the steps you need to take to make it possible for you to get better? She says following all these steps is going to be difficult. She doesn't lie to anybody. And she says changing patterns of behavior is easy, but when you make those choices, you get motivated because life is a choice. Anyway, when you see how much control you have over your life, things can change and positive things can happen, and she is proud to utilize her knowledge and experience to help others. As I said, folks, she is not your average therapist. Again, her name is Shawnelle Batiste. She's in Leander, Texas. And for those of you who wonder where Leander is, let's find out. Shawnelle is on the line with us. Shawnelle, good afternoon. Nice to have you with us. Really delightful to have you. Where is Leander? What's your closest big city?
Our closest big city is Austin. We're just north of Austin.
Okay, you're not that far from Austin. All right, good enough. That gives us an idea where you are. You're still in shock from snow, right? Which is interesting.
Yes, I am. I am in shock from snow. Yeah, it doesn't do that here. So we were all freaked out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. All right, let me ask you a little bit about how you help people, but I am amazed that you knew you wanted to do something like what you're doing right now at the young age of 7. How do you know that, and how do you remember that? Talk to me a little bit about that choice of yours, going so far back.
It's one of the two things in my childhood I do remember. I just remember talking outside with my siblings and just saying, I want to be a child psychiatrist. And I've rolled with it ever since. I have always been attracted to those that are broken, which all of us are. But people have come to me and talked to me randomly. In high school, people approached me I was the person that they went to talk to, and I didn't have a lot of knowledge because I was just in high school. But what I did offer was confidentiality. You know, when you're in high school, you know, there's rumor mills and people are talking. They could come to Shawnnell and talk about their things without ever having to hear it anywhere else. So I developed good trust and rapport with people, and they trusted me with their stuff. So that I think was a big part of where I really found myself in it and understood what my gift was and how I utilize it in a positive way. And in high school, we had, I think it was a half a semester of psychology, and I was totally in love with that. I thrived in it, and it was awesome. And so I was like, this is truly, truly what I want to do, and I want to dig into the behavior of people, you know.
Well, then obviously you had to study. I mean, you went to school and studied. You have, you are a psychiatrist, so and a therapist.
I'm a therapist, not a psychiatrist. Even though I wanted to do that, but then even with that, I figured out that psychiatry. I understood what psychiatry was later in the game, and figured out, okay, they can talk to the people, but a lot of times people are going to them to get the medication, and so what I wanted to do was really talk to the people, whether they needed to take medication, whether they didn't need to take medication. I wanted to dig in and figure out what the problems were. I wanted to be able to relate. I wanted to be able to have someone that they could talk to freely, that understood them, that, did not judge them. That's a big thing for people, is being judged. A lot of people don't come to therapy because they feel like they'll be judged, and I want to eliminate that. I want to eliminate that fear or that stigma that we deal with what therapy really looks like. It does not have to look like you lying on the couch and the therapist going, how does that make you feel? When that it's a conversation. It's a conversation, and we're talking about life stuff. We're talking about your everyday, and all the past stuff. You can see the past stuff in your everyday life, how you interact with people, how you respond to things at work, how you interact with your children. All of that trauma from past or things that you're dealing with, that comes out in your interactions with others. And we just talk about that stuff and figure out, why am I responding the way I do? Why did I get upset when that was not a big deal to get upset over? Because it likely triggered something from your childhood or from a previous relationship, something that hurt. We just talk, man. You just got to just talk.
Well, I think that's good. I want to point out that you have a bachelor's degree in psychology from LSU. You have a master's in art degree too. That's kind of interesting. You'll have to explain to me where that plays into the role of what you're doing right now, which is really pretty fascinating. But you're licensed as a professional counselor, and not only in Texas but also in Louisiana. And as I say, you have a passion for serving those in need. And you have done that by being an active part of programs that feed homeless. Are you a foster parent as well, an adoptive parent?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I have fostered many and adopted 5 girls who were all teenagers when I adopted them, and I have 2 biological children. So my ex-husband and I were raising 7 girls.
Good for you. Good for you, young lady.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
Very hard, but amazing.
Well, obviously you love children, and you even bring them in when they're teenagers at that point. Which a lot of people are kind of afraid to do that, but it needs to be done. So good for you. I'm interested in the name that you chose for your practice, choosing empowerment. Why'd you pick that name? Explain that to me. What does it mean to you?
The greatest gift we have ever been given is the power of choice. It's the greatest gift. So in America, we usually, we're always in arms about our liberty, our freedom. We can choose what we want. We can. It's just that most of us have a mentality that things happen to us without our consent or without without us saying, okay, this is what I want to happen. Now, can you decide everything? No, some things do happen that's beyond our control. You can decide how you respond to them, how you react to them, how you interact. You can decide what you want to do about your side of things, right? And so I just thought that would be a wonderful name for my practice because it's totally what I believe in. It's, I teach my children that, you have choices. Mom's going to tell you what I'm going to allow, but you have a choice to obey or disobey. You have a choice to, when you get up in the morning, most people go straight to the toilet, right? But you have a choice. You can pee in the bed if you want, but what's the consequences of that? So all of our choices have consequences. But it is, in essence, a choice. You choose to get out of bed. You choose when you don't want to go to bed. You choose where you work. You choose everything. You literally choose everything. So I feel like we can choose to be empowered to choose. We can be empowered to do the things that make our life better. We make choices based upon our experiences, what we learn from society, our parents. There are lots of factors that go into how we choose. If we can flip that around and learn to choose better, if we learn to respond to the world in a way that is productive, in a way that will help us grow, we have to learn that, though. And I feel like that's what therapy is, a big part of teaching you how to do those things. Most of the time we don't know how. We're in crisis because we have no clue how to deal with the situations. And so if you get some tools, if you get some, knowledge, like that makes all the difference. And have somebody to walk with you through it, to say, okay, we didn't use the tools quite as good as we could have, but let's try that again, and to keep people from being discouraged. And, our automatic thoughts are negative, Something doesn't happen, well, oh, shucks, I quit. But don't quit. Like, how do we need to go back into it and revamp it? It's our thought processes. But it's what we're taught. It's what we're taught by society. It's what we're taught by our parents. It's what we're taught by the world. And so I want to change people's thinking and get them empowered to make their own choices and find their own way through their own choices.
Good for you. Do you deal with children a lot, or is it mostly adults, or is it is it both? When I say children, I'm talking about teenagers, people like that, older kids, or are they all adults?
I work with everyone 5 and up.
5.
So 5 and up. The younger they are, it is more difficult. Like little people, but with little people, you got to let them be little. You got to let them be themselves. Play therapy is wonderful because you're engaging with them in their language. The language of children is play, and so they will tell you all of their business and their parents' business and all the things when they're playing and interacting with the toys. So it's a little harder to do virtually, but we're figuring that part out. Teenagers have always been my most favorite population. That's where I really started with working with people, is working with teenagers. And there's a special breed. I remember being a teenager. It's a tough time, and they need to be understood. Especially you're at that strange place where you're not a kid, but you're not an adult. Like, what do I do now? Hormones all over the place, trying to figure yourself out, like it's a lot. So having someone who can listen to them freely and non-judgmentally and just allow them to be themselves and navigate through figuring out who they are and what they believe without judgment is awesome. And of course, I work with adults, for as old as they are, it doesn't matter. There's no cutoff.
It's interesting. I know you. It says you work with and serve youth who are at risk. You work with those who are developmentally delayed or disabled children, and I assume those children are brought to you by adults. But do many kids come to you on their own and called to come see you, or are they all brought to you or referred to you by teachers or by parents or by some foster family? How do these kids get to you, come to see you? How are they referred to you? That's the question.
Most of the time they are referred through other adult agencies, because a lot of times kids they don't even know what therapy is,
Exactly.
So for the most part, they're brought to me by others. But I raise my kids even to talk to their peers about the importance of therapy and how it works. And so that can become a norm. I would love for this to become a norm in every arena. But if we can get it to become a norm that, when you're having struggles, go talk to your therapist. It's not a big deal. It's not a big problem. And a lot of kids are more inclined now, especially in this generation, they're more inclined to seek therapy on their own. So I do have some that call on their own, or they call their parents and say, hey, I've had a couple of parents that say, hey, this is what she's asking for. So this is starting to make some changes where kids are coming on their own and saying, hey, I need this help. And I think that's a lot of that has to do with just this generation is different. They're more accepting, they're more fluid with things, and so they're not caught up into the same things that a lot of older people are.
Talk to me about what the typical kinds of problems that the children you deal with have these days. I mean, are the same things kids have, issues they've dealt with for years and years and years, or have things changed and kids have new and different problems? How would you answer that?
Overall, kids have the same problems they've always had. We're in a different world, though. They have a lot more access to the world. They have a lot more information. You can not only be bullied at school, you can be cyberbullied. So there's so much more exposure to things that it seems like it's more problems, but I think these problems have always been there. Now there's an outlet and there's more exposure to them. They're seeking help for mostly like depression and anxiety are huge ones. And so much of that is just not being accepted, not knowing who they are, figuring out just regular teenage stuff. Like that's a hard time, man. Especially like middle school, that's a tough time. And then not only to add the more acceptance now for the LGBTQ community, whereas before a child who may have been gay or bisexual just hid it. They hid it, they depressed, they stayed in the corner, they didn't talk to anybody. And now it's more acceptable. And so now they're figuring out, am I going to come out? When am I going to come out? Is my parents going to accept this? So there's a slight level of difference here because now there's a dynamic where I need to make my way out. I need to talk about this. Some of them stay hidden and wait till they're adults, and others work through it with their parents. Just depends on the environment and what kind of support they have. But there's a lot. Most of the kids I deal with, anxiety and depression. Just the pressures of growing up and living life. And I'm sure, like this past year, 2020, did a number on a lot of kids. They couldn't engage in the things that they were engaging in, to help them cope. They didn't get to socialize. They couldn't finish school like everything was turned upside down, and now I had to be around my parents all the time. Oh my gosh, so lots of anxiety and depression, lots of it.
Well, what you're pointing out there, because obviously of the COVID and the pandemic and COVID-19, which brings up a question. You as a therapist in this day and age, which we're very much in and have been for, it's getting near a year. Do you work with the kids in person?
Yeah.
You do, or does it have to be virtual?
I have worked with everybody. No, everybody's been virtual since the pandemic. And as a matter of fact, before the pandemic, I was doing in-home services because I also pride myself as a therapist who breaks barriers, and I just don't want any excuses for people not to get the help they need. So transportation and getting to your therapist is one of those. So I would go to them. And so that kind of interrupted the home service deal, and we went completely virtual, which has worked out fine. I thought that the virtual thing wouldn't translate well, but, I'm still able to connect with my clients and my kids. They get to do therapy in their pajamas, and they love that. So it worked out really well. The virtual thing works out really well.
How long do you typically work with a child? A teenager who's having problems in school. Adults, you could have an adult that could be a client, and you would see them weekly for months, if not more. But what about children? How long does it take for you to see a difference in them, where they're really realizing they're getting some help and they're feeling better? How long does it take?
Well, all kids, as well as people, are individual. I would say when I was fostering, I would notice, my husband and I would notice that at about a 6-month mark, kids would either take one road or take the other. They would either buy into the program and do better, or they would run off to the other side and say, forget this, I'm not doing it. But I noticed in doing therapy with children, just like as adults, it is totally individual. And I can never, which was difficult for me when someone says, oh, you only have 6 sessions, you only have 12 sessions. And I feel like there should be as many sessions allowed as it takes for that person to transition to be able to be out on their own and do what they need to do. My typical policy is we start off frequent, and as you get better, we titrate down. We start out weekly, and then we go bi-weekly, and then we go every 3 weeks, and then we go once a month. My goal is to have therapy to be just like your doctor's office. When you get injured, you go to your doctor. Every year, you go get your checkup. That's how therapy should be, too, that taking care of your mental wellness is just as important as your physical. And so I just don't think there should be a limitation or, because we're so individual, and everybody's traumas are so different. Even 2 kids who have lived in the same house and had the same trauma respond differently. They have different temperaments and different personalities and different levels of resilience. And so one kid could be, able to function independently without any issues, 3 to 4 months, and the other one may take 2 years. It just depends on the person.
Yeah. That's amazing. Interesting. We're talking with Shawnelle Batiste. She is a licensed professional counselor, founder of Choosing Empowerment, and her practice is headquartered in Leander, Texas, although she is licensed in Louisiana as well. Shawnelle, it's a great website where you can get a lot of information about her practice and how she helps people and how you get in touch with her if you're interested. And it's choosingempowerment.com, the name of her practice. choosingempowerment.com. Do me a favor, Shawnelle. I know you've had many successful stories, but give me one of your success stories of a child, even or an adult who's come to you for help, and after a while you've seen a big improvement in them. I don't need any names or anything like that, but examples of how you've been able to help people and help them see, light on the other side, so to speak.
So often I'll get a call or an email of someone who is usually almost in crisis, because that's when we tend to seek therapy. And we talk about the issue. We deal with whatever the issue is. Sometimes they don't know what the issue is, and we just talk it out until we figure that out. My success stories are fantastic. Like, there have been women who are getting out of abusive relationships and just learning how to love themselves, which is so many of my clients just trying to learn how to love themselves. And when they reach the point of loving them, like, everything else in their life starts to fall in line. And the things that they're reaching out for outside of just relationships start to happen, and jobs start to happen, and opportunities start to happen, because they've opened their minds up and they've opened up their hearts, and they love themselves and they know they deserve better, and so they choose better, And that's so many of my clients, male and female alike, just getting enlightened. There's so many aha moments during the conversation. There's so many aha moments in between sessions, because once you start processing a thing, once you want to get better, once you try to get better, once you reach out and start making those moves, like, man, the stuff happens in between sessions. I tell everybody that's when the magic happens. because you have these aha moments. Man, when I was talking to my therapist, she said this and she said that, and now I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe this issue is connected to that, and I need to address that, and I need to forgive this person, and I need to get over this hurt, because that wasn't my fault. Like, I mean, it's amazing to watch people grow. It's absolutely amazing, and it does my heart good for my clients to come back or toward the end of services. They're like, man, you made a big difference in my life. If it had not been for you, I wouldn't be in this position. That keeps me moving, because the process is hard, and it's going to be hard regardless. Anything you're trying to do that's going to make a difference in your life is going to be a little difficult. But when you get to the other side, it's going to be fantastically great, and nobody's going to be able to stop you. Sometimes we just got to get out of our own way. Most of the times, we just got to get out of our own way.
I love the way you put that. You know, that must make you feel so good to have people tell you that you've made such a difference in their life, that you've really helped them, and things are so much better for them. I mean, what greater reward is there for you than that? That's really what you want, isn't it? It's what you're after.
There is none. That's exactly what I want. And to explain to my clients, I'm human too. I go through the same junk. You know, I see my therapist every week just like they do. And so I believe in the process, and I believe in the power, and I'm always seeking to continue to grow. I like to connect with my clients in a way that tells them I'm just like you are. I'm not different. I'm going through stuff. You're going through stuff. You know, I'm going to hold your hand through this. Somebody else is holding my hand through mine. You know, making people feel like they're not ostracized. You know, I got the knowledge. I got the education. But you're an expert on you. You know you better than I do, so just let me help you through the process. Let me teach you how to get out of your way. You know,
it's interesting hearing you say that because we don't think of a therapist needing a therapist. You know, we talk to coaches all the time, but coaches have coaches, and for you to say that you see your therapist too that's encouraging, and I think it's very enlightening for you to be able to admit that you have a therapist too that has helped for you. Interesting, very interesting. Yep. So if you can use a therapist, then obviously everybody can use a therapist. And I'm sure at times all of us should be able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody like you. You do this mostly by phone now, or do you do it for Zoom, or is it phone, or whatever? How do you do it?
It's Zoom or whatever platform, because I use Simple Practice platform to do my virtual visits for the most part, because that's the system I use. However, like any HIPAA-compliant way to connect virtually, I will use.
Right.
I also am connected to a couple of agencies that will help pay for therapy, or they will connect people to me, specifically black people or indigenous, because that's a primary population. And so, and they will connect. They'll help black people find a black therapist, because it's easier to connect to someone who looks like you, who is of your culture. And so, I see everybody, like I said, all walks of life. I'm just trying to break barriers. And so, I'm just trying to help the people, Doug.
You're just doing your job, and you're loving it. Listen, this has been just great, Shawnelle. Our guest has been Shawnelle Batiste. She's in Leander, Texas, and she has that website now. Go look at the website if you think you could use some help. ChoosingEmpowerment.com. Again, ChoosingEmpowerment.com. That's how you learn more about Shawnelle, and you'll learn how to get in contact with her. Shawnelle, thanks for being with us. It's been very informative. I've loved having you. You're a great guest. So thank you so much, my dear, and good luck to you, okay? We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You are very, very welcome. And hope the snow doesn't last too long down there for you. I know it's different. Here we go.
Close Up Television Incorporated. For more information about our show and to be considered for future broadcasts, please visit closeuptelevision.com. You may also learn about us on social media and listen to us on podcast and internet radio. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have an empowered and productive day.
Talk about empowered.
Hi, Cycle Breakers. I'm Shawnelle Batiste, licensed professional counselor of Choosing Empowerment, the keeping it real, no bullshit, and holding you accountable therapist.